Welcome to the Sleepy Story, your gentle retreat from the day's whirl. As rain whispers on the roof, envision yourself in a warm New England bindery, the scent of aged leather rising, the soft rustle of pages weaving calm. Let the rain's soothing rhythm guide you into a tale of heart and hope, where every stitch binds a timeless legacy. In the New England town of Page Haven, where mists draped the hills, Clara Reed bound books that held every story. At 42, she doubted her quiet craft could leave a mark, her bindery fading under adversity. One rainy night, a stranger arrived with a glowing thread, sparking a journey to prove that steadfastness in adversity binds a timeless legacy. Finard, rain fell softly over Page Haven, Vermont, its gentle patter a soothing hum against the shingle roof of Clara Reed's bookbinding shop, a cozy storefront tucked along the cobblestone lanes of the small New England town. The air carried the crisp scent of wet paper and oak, drifting through the bindery's cracked window, mingling with the warm tang of leather and glue. At 42, Clara was Page Haven's bookbinder, her hands worn from years of stitching pages, her auburn hair tied back with a ribbon, her green eyes sharp but shadowed by a quiet doubt. Her bindery, Reed's Pages, was a sanctuary of stories, its shelves lined with books, journals in navy, novels in burgundy, poetry in sage, their spines gleaming under the lamplight. A wooden table stood at the center, its surface scarred from countless bindings, and the air was thick with the scent of vellum, a fragrance that clung to the shop's beams. Page Haven was a town of timeless charm, its paths winding through clapboard homes and apple orchards, with hills cradling maples that blazed scarlet each autumn. Founded in the 1760s by scholars and farmers, it held its history in the tales told at library readings and the quilts sold at book fairs. Clara's books were woven into Page Haven's heart. Her journals held dreams, her novels lined parlor, shelves. Her poetry graced church readings. Townsfolk cherished her work, stopping by with baskets of cider or tales of the Green Mountains, their smiles warm as they traced her bindings. "You're our memory, Clara," they'd say. But Clara's heart bore a burden, a fear that her craft, however loved, was too humble to matter beyond the hills. She moved through her days with a steady rhythm, rising at dawn to cut paper, her hands folding sheets, their texture a language she knew by heart. By mid-morning, she'd bind books, stitching a sage poetry collection, the needle's tug a quiet song. At the weekly market in the town square, where birches were strung with lanterns, she'd sell books, their colors, navy, burgundy, sage, catching the light. She'd chat with neighbors like Hannah Wells, the librarian who bought her journals, or Eli Tate, a high school senior who helped stack leather. "This novel's a treasure," Hannah would say, holding a burgundy book, its spine tight. Clara would nod, her cheeks flushing under her ribbon. "Just pages," she'd reply, but Hannah's words couldn't lift her doubt. The bindery was struggling. Rising costs for leather and thread, a sagging roof that leaked in storms, competition from mass-produced books in Burlington. Clara dreamed of a bookbinding school, teaching kids to stitch pages, a press in Montpelier publishing Vermont's stories, her books preserving tales across New England. But adversity dulled her ambition, and doubt bound a tight knot in her chest. I'm just a bookbinder, she'd think, watching mist curl over the hills. What can I do? Despite the town's love, Clara felt her spark fading. It's just pages, she'd mutter, sweeping dust from the floor as dusk fell, the squares lampposts flickering to life. They hold, they fade, they're forgotten. Her mother, Miriam, had been a bookbinder, her hands stitching pages until illness stilled them, passing 14 years ago when Clara was 28. Miriam's words echoed, clear as a needle's pierce. Books are more than paper, Clara. Their steadfastness made whole. But Clara wasn't sure she believed it anymore. She dreamed of a legacy, a school preserving Miriam's craft, a press carrying Pagehaven stories, her books in libraries, but obstacles loomed. Debt, a faltering press, a fear that her steadfastness wasn't enough. I don't hold strong enough, she'd think, watching the lampposts glow. What's the point without stories? On a Wednesday in early November, the sky darkened, clouds piling over the hills, heralding a storm. By noon, rain fell in sheets, the lanes slick, shops closing early. Clara was stitching a Navy journal, its pages smooth under her fingers, when a knock broke through the storm's roar. 3 sharp raps. She set down her needle, wiped her hands on her apron, and opened the door, the wind tugging at her ribbon. A man stood there, his raincoat dripping, his face weathered but purposeful. He was perhaps 60, his beard gray, his eyes like amber, warm yet piercing. "I'm Gideon," he said, stepping inside, his boots leaving wet prints. In his hands was a wooden box, its lid carved with swirling letters, and when he opened it, Clara's breath caught. Nestled within, on a bed of vellum, was a spool of thread, its fibers glowing faintly, like moonlight on snow, pulsing with a warmth that seemed alive. "I've come far to find a bookbinder," Gideon said, his voice rising above the rains. "And Pagehaven speaks your name, Clara Reed." Clara froze, her pulse quickening, the thread's glow casting arcs across the bindery, glinting off journals and novels. "You've got the wrong person," she said, her hands paper-dusted. "I'm no master." Gideon held the box closer, the thread's light dancing in his eyes. "This thread is no ordinary thing," he said. "It's spun from the world's deepest stories, pages that held dreams, books that warmed hearts. It binds only for someone steadfast in adversity." Clara's throat tightened, the thread's glow alive, its warmth radiating. Doubt surged. "I'm not steadfast enough," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm just keeping the bindery going." Gideon's gaze softened, but his voice held firm. "The greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground, Clara. Trust this thread, and trust your hands." He placed the box in Clara's hands, the wood warm, the thread's glow pulsing like a heartbeat. "Bind with it," he said. "Work it with care. Meditate on its light, and let it show you what's possible." Before Clara could protest, Gideon turned, stepping into the storm, his figure fading into the rain. Clara stood alone, the box heavy, the bindery's air warmer, as if the books were listening. The rain's rhythm matched her heart's thud, the thread's glow casting light across the shelves. Doubts swarmed. What if it's nothing? What if I fail? But Gideon's words echoed. The greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground. She set the box by her table, beside a half-stitched sage poetry book, and lifted the thread, its fibers soft, its warmth steady. She stitched it into a burgundy novel, the needle gliding, the pages glowing with light. By morning, it was a masterpiece, its glow a song, its spine tight. Clara smiled, her steadfastness stirring, doubt quieter. She bound a navy journal next, the thread's glow pulsing, and the bindery hummed with light, her craft alive with purpose. Hannah Wells stopped by, her scarf damp, her eyes wide at the novel. "This is you, Clara," she said, touching its spine. "It's the school you dreamed of." Clara shared Gideon's visit, and Hannah urged her to pursue it. Eli Tate sketched. The Journal, pushing for a Montpellier fair, and Ms. Laurel, a teacher, tied Clara's work to Pagehaven's legacy. Each night, Clara meditated, the thread's glow warm, visions of a school and press vivid. Doubt lingered, but the thread's light urged her to bind. Her steadfastness a steady stitch, finding strength in every adversity. The autumn fairs. Warmth lingered in Pagehaven like the scent of apple cider. Its success, a spark that set Clara Reed's bindery ablaze with possibility. Rain fell in soft waves, pattering against the shingle roof of Reed's pages. The hills cloaked in frost, their maples a fading gold. Clara stood at her table, stitching the glowing thread into a sage poetry book, its faint light pulsing as the needle glided, the pages shimmering with each stitch, its glow spreading like a heartbeat trapped in vellum. The fair had been a triumph. Her glowing books, navy journals, burgundy novels, sage poetry, selling out under the square's lantern-lit birches, their radiant spines drawing gasps from townsfolk. Ms. Laurel had bought the sage poetry book, its glow dancing in her eyes like a summer dusk. "You're binding Pagehaven's soul, Clara," she'd said, her voice warm as her classroom. Mr. Pike, a farmer, had taken the Navy Journal, its light steady as his fields, and a writer had claimed the burgundy novel, its spine grounding. Her tales. The coins in Clara's woven basket clinked with promise, heavy with more than money, a surge of pride, a steadfastness for her craft that burned brighter than ever. Tempered by Gideon's words, the greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground. Hannah Wells's encouragement at the fair, "This is the school you dreamed of," and Eli Tate's sketch of a school sign, its book logo bold, had taken root in Clara's heart, urging her to bind with resolve, to let her steadfastness shine through every stitch. She worked with a quiet joy, the rain's rhythm a steady guide, her hands moving with a bookbinder's grace as she cut leather for a new journal. Its navy cover infused with the glowing thread, the scent of fresh vellum sharp and wild, like the hills beyond the bindery. She stitched carefully, the thread's glow pulsing, and the journal took shape, its spine tight, its glow pulsing like a star in a snowy night. The bindery hummed with warmth, its shelves lined with unlit books, burgundy novels, sage poetry, navy journals, their pages promising stories. Townsfolk crowded in daily, their boots tracking mud across the oak floor, their eyes wide at the IBE Sage Poetry Book's radiance, its glow casting arcs across the walls, glinting off needles and glue pots stacked on the table. "It's like starlight caught in pages," said Miss Laurel one frosty morning, clutching a jar of jam as thanks, her hands gentle, her smile warm. Clara blushed, her cheeks pink under her auburn curls, and showed her the burgundy novel, its glow steady when she smoothed it, its spine delicate like dawn through pines. "You're building something big, Clara," Ms. Laurel said, her voice firm, her eyes tracing the novel's light. Clara deflected, her voice soft. "It's just pages." But Ms. Laurel's belief settled heavy in her chest. A reminder to keep binding, to let her steadfastness light the way. The bindery was a haven, its air thick with vellum and oak, and Clara felt not just a bookbinder, but a dreamer. Her steadfastness a steady stitch, pushing her to create despite the doubts that flickered in her mind. What if I can't keep this up? What if it's not enough? Eli Tate knocked mid-morning, his high school jacket damp from the rain, his sketchbook tucked under his arm, its pages bulging with designs. "Heard you're a legend already," he said, stepping inside, his sneakers squeaking on the floor, his freckled face bright with excitement. Clara hesitated, then showed him the sage poetry book and burgundy novel, their glow catching the light in Eli's eyes, their pages dancing softly. "Wow," Eli said, his pencil flying across his sketchbook, capturing the poetry book's radiant spine, its glow like a meadow at dusk. "These are unreal, Ms. Reed. You gotta show them in Montpelier at the book fair next month." Clara's stomach tightened, the cost of a stall looming large, her savings still thin despite the fair's success. "They're just books," she said, her voice low, but Eli's eyes gleamed, undeterred. "They're stories. Like that school you mentioned last spring." Clara blinked, startled, her mind flashing to a passing comment she'd made to Eli. While cutting paper, a dream of a bookbinding school buried under years of doubt. "That was just talk," she said. But Eli handed her a new sketch. A bindery interior, kids stitching pages, books glowing under a beamed ceiling. "For when you're ready," Eli said, grinning, his enthusiasm a spark that warmed Clara's chest. She took the sketch, her fingers brushing the paper, a possibility flaring brighter than her doubts. The day stretched on, the rain's rhythm, a soft pulse, and Clara bound a navy journal, its glowing thread shaped into a tight spine, its pages smooth, its glow flickering like a heartbeat when she pressed it. The bindery's air was alive with the scent of leather and rain. Its shelves, a constellation of unlit promises. She meditated as she worked, the rain's patter pulling her into a quiet trance, and visions came, vivid and warm. A bookbinding school in Page Haven's Square, its tables bustling with kids like Eli stitching pages, their laughter mingling with the scent of vellum and oak, families wandering through, their faces soft in the glow. A press in Montpellier, its shelves lined with her work, her books preserving stories across Vermont, even Boston. The visions were so clear, they felt like memories waiting to be bound, but obstacles loomed, heavy as wet snow. A supplier had raised leather prices, citing shortages after a poor season, and Clara's savings, though bolstered by the autumn fair, dwindled with each new thread. "I can't afford this," she muttered, cutting a batch of sage vellum, its scent grounding her. But the thread's glow pulsed in its spool, and Gideon's words steadied her. The greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground. She bartered with a local tanner, offering a glowing burgundy novel for a batch of navy leather, her steadfastness shining through her offer, her voice steady as she described the novel's glow. The tanner's eyes softened, his fingers tracing the spine, and he agreed, delivering sheets of leather days later, soft and fragrant, a small victory born of resolve. Hannah Wells organized a town meeting to support Clara's dream. The community hall packed with townsfolk, their faces ruddy from the chill, the air warm with the scent of coffee and wood smoke. Clara stood at the front, her hands trembling, her apron swapped for a wool sweater, and shared her vision. A bookbinding school in Page Haven, a place for the town's craft to thrive, for kids to learn the art of stories, for her books to hold tales beyond the hills. She braced for skepticism, her heart thudding, but the room erupted in cheers, hands clapping, voices calling out. "We're with you, Clara," shouted Ms. Laurel, her teacher's hands raised, her grin wide. "Let's build it," said Eli, waving his sketch of the ED school, its book logo glowing in pencil. Hannah, her librarian's scarf bright, proposed a town reading to raise funds, her eyes shining with pride. "Your books are our stories," she said. and Clara's doubts lightened. The weight of her dream shared by a town ready to bind alongside her. She nodded, her throat tight, a smile breaking through, her steadfastness a flame that felt unstoppable. But a setback struck the next day, heavy as the rain that pounded the bindery's roof. The press's roller jammed, its gears worn from years of use, halting Clara's work on a batch of journals for Montpellier's press, their deadline looming. Her heart sank, doubt flaring like a torn page. I can't lose the press now, not when I'm so close. She inspected the gears, her hands shaking, the rain's roar mocking her efforts. But Eli arrived, unbidden, his jacket soaked, his arms full of tools. "Let's fix it," Eli said, his voice firm. And together they oiled the rollers, their wrenches clanging through the storm, their laughter breaking through the cold. Clara's steadfastness burned brighter, the threads glow in its spool, a reminder to bind through obstacles, to keep stitching despite the jams, the costs, the doubts that threaten to unravel her light. By dusk, the press turned, the bindery warm, and Clara hugged Eli, her gratitude a steady stitch. The town, reading, filled Pagehaven Square a week later, lanterns swaying under the rain's soft veil, their light dancing on the cobblestones. Fiddles sang, their notes weaving through the chatter of townsfolk sipping warm cider, their mittens clutching mugs, their faces flushed with joy. Eli's posters pinned to the birches drew a crowd, their book logos bold, and Hannah's raffle of Clara's Navy journal sparked cheers, the book's glow a beacon in the dusk. Clara, usually shy, stepped forward, her voice steady, and thanked the town, her words simple but heartfelt. "You've made my dream real." Her humility, "It's just pages," was met with applause, hands clapping, voices calling her name. Funds poured in, coins and bills filling Hannah's tin, enough to buy lumber for the school's foundation. Clara's chest swelled, her steadfastness no longer a flicker but a blaze, each book a testament to her love for her craft. Gideon visited one rainy evening, his raincoat glistening in the bindery's glow, his amber eyes bright as he studied the sage poetry book, its glow pulsing like a heart. "You're shining, Clara," he said, his voice soft but sure, cutting through the rain's hum. "The steadfastness?" Clara asked, smoothing the burgundy novel, its light glinting red. Gideon nodded, his smile gentle. "It's in every stitch. Do you trust it?" Clara sighed, the thread warm in her hand, its glow a star in her palm. "I see the school, the press in Montpellier," she admitted, her voice low. "But the obstacles, money, time, this press, they're heavy." Gideon's eyes softened, his hand resting on Clara's. "Steadfastness holds the ground, Clara, the threads showing, You a legacy. Keep binding." He left, his figure fading into the rain, and Clara sat, the bindery quiet, but for the rain's patter and the rustle of her needle. She meditated, the threads glow warm, and the visions returned, clearer than ever. The school, alive with light, kids binding, her books glowing far beyond Page Haven. She bound a new Navy journal, its scent sharp, its glow a beacon, her steadfastness burning stronger, one stitch at a time. Winter's chill deepened in Page Haven, the rain a soft whisper against the shingle roof of Reed's pages, the hills heavy with snow, their bare maples etched against a slate-gray sky, like delicate stitches waiting to bind a story. Clara Reed stood at her table, stitching the glowing thread into a burgundy novel, its faint light pulsing as the needle glided, the pages shimmering with each stitch, its glow spreading like a heartbeat trapped in vellum. The Montpellier Book Fair's success had spread her name across Vermont, orders pouring in from Burlington and Stowe for glowing books. Navy journals, sage poetry, burgundy novels, each spine a testament to her steadfastness in adversity. The bookbinding school's foundation was rising in Page Haven Square, its oak beams sturdy against the winter storms, a monument to Clara's resolve and the community's faith. Her steadfastness burned bright, a fire fueled by Gideon's words, etched in her heart since that rainy November night. The greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground. Doubt flickered, faint but sharp. Can I meet these demands? Is the school too big a dream? But the thread's glow was a beacon, urging her to bind with resolve, to let her books bind a timeless legacy. The bindery was a radiant hub, its tables humming with creation, the air thick with the scent of vellum and the damp breath of snow, its shelves lined with books that promised stories through Page Haven's harsh winters. Townsfolk crowded in, their boots dusted with snow from hill trails, their voices soft with pride as they studied the sage poetry book, its glowing spine casting arcs across the oak walls, glinting off needles and glue pots stacked on the workbench. "These books are our heart," said Ms. Laurel, her teacher's hands cradling a Navy journal, its glow steady, its pages as warm as her classroom readings. Clara smiled, her auburn hair loose under her ribbon, her green eyes soft, and showed her a new burgundy novel, its glow warm, like spring over the hills, its spine infused with the scent of oak from a glue she'd mixed herself. "You're unstoppable, Clara," Ms. Laurel said, her voice firm, her eyes tracing the novel's light. Clara deflected, her voice low. "It's just pages." But Ms. Laurel's belief settled heavy in her chest, a call to bind through doubt, to stitch steadfastness in every adversity. The bindery was alive with the rustle of pages, its air thick with oak and hope, and Clara felt not just a bookbinder, but a visionary. her steadfastness a steady stitch, binding stories into every book, facing every adversity with resolve. She worked with a steadfastness that felt boundless. The rains whisper a gentle guide, her hand steady as she cut paper for a new poetry collection, its sage sheets soft under her worn fingers, the glowing thread woven through, its light pulsing like a heartbeat in the lamplight. The sage hue caught the bindery's glow, its rich shade deep as the hills under snow, and Clara stitched. The needle's rhythm, a song that drowned out the doubt that lingered. What if I'm not enough? What if I unravel under the pressure? Meditations deepened each night, the rain's rhythm pulling her into a quiet trance. The threads glow a star in her hands, its light warm against her skin. Visions flooded her mind, vivid and clear, as if the thread were binding them, a bookbinding school thriving in the square, its tables alive with kids like Eli Tate stitching pages, their laughter blending with the scent of vellum and oak. Artisans from Burlington learning the craft, their books preserving stories across New England, even California, a press in Montpelier, its shelves radiant with her creations, her books holding tales far beyond the hills, their spines carrying Page Haven's heart to the world. The visions were so real, Clara sketched them nightly. School displays with glowing books, lesson plans for kids, book designs with intricate embossing. Her pencil swift, her doubt a mere flicker against her steadfastness's fire. But a setback struck, sharp as the blizzards that swept the hills, its weight threatening to tear her resolve. A paper shortage hit Page Haven, the vellum and cotton stocks running low. After a supplier's mill flood, halting Clara's work on a batch of journals for Burlington's press, their deadline looming. Her heart sank, doubt surging like a cold wind. I can't lose these orders now, not with the school so close. She paced the oak floor, the rain's whisper a taunt, the empty paper crates stark on the shelf, but the thread's glow pulsed in its spool, and Gideon's words steadied her. The greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground. She sat, stitching the burgundy novel over her table, its glow warm, and devised a plan. She bartered with a paper merchant in Stowe, offering a set of glowing books, Navy journal, sage poetry, burgundy novel, their spines radiant, their pages a promise of Page Haven's craft. Clara's voice was steady, her steadfastness shining as she described the book's glow, their stories, their heart. The merchant's eyes softened, his fingers tracing the spine, and he agreed, delivering sheets of vellum days later, soft and fragrant, a triumph born of resolve. Hannah Wells arrived one evening, her librarian's coat damp, a grant letter clutched in her hand, her scarf bright against the bindery's glow. The Arts Council's funding the school's walls, she said. her eyes shining, her voice warm with pride. Your books did it, Clara. They see your steadfastness. Clara's throat tightened, the support a lifeline, her hands trembling, as she set down a sage poetry book, its glow glinting in the lamplight. I keep stumbling, she admitted, her voice low, the novel's burgundy light dancing in her green eyes. Hannah's smile was firm, her hand resting on Clara's. You keep binding, Clara. That's timeless. She planned a winter fair to raise more funds, her enthusiasm a spark that warmed the bindery, and Clara nodded, her steadfastness battling the doubt that lingered like frost on the hills. Eli Tate, sketching the poetry book's sage glow, his pencil swift, added his own encouragement. Burlington's just the start, Ms. Reed. Your books are ready for more. Clara agreed, her heart lifting, and began packing the Navy Journal and Burgundy novel, their glow radiant in their crates, her steadfastness a steady stitch that bound through every fear. The winter fair transformed Page Haven's square. Lanterns glowing under the snow's soft veil, their light dancing on the cobblestones, the air alive with the scent of pies and pine. Fiddles sang, their notes weaving through the chatter of townsfolk trading quilts, jams, and cider, their faces flushed. With warmth, despite the chill, Eli's posters, pinned to the maples, drew crowds, their book logos bold, and Hannah's raffle of Clara's Burgundy novel sparked cheers. The book's glow, a beacon in the dusk, its spine tight as the town's heart. Clara stepped forward, her voice steady, her sweater soft against her skin, and spoke to the crowd, her words simple but heartfelt. You've made my dream real. These books are our strength, bound with steadfastness. Her humility, it's just pages, was met with applause, hands clapping, voices calling her name, the square alive with the town's belief. Funds poured in, coins and bills filling Hannah's tin, enough to buy plaster for the school's walls. The structure rising taller in the square, its oak beams a promise of stories. A new challenge struck, heavy as the snow that followed, its weight testing Clara's resolve. A critic in a Burlington paper reviewed her books, praising their glow, but doubting their broad appeal, calling them quaint and niche. The words stung, doubt flaring like a smudged page. What if I've gone too far? What if I'm not enough? She sat, stitching the Navy Journal over her table, its glow warm, and thought of Miriam, her mother's hands binding books through lean years, her voice steady. We'll hold the world's stories. Clara had been 16, her own hands learning. And now, 26 years later, she refused to let doubt unbind her dream. She sent the sage poetry book and Burgundy novel to a New York press, her steadfastness pushing through, her voice firm, as she described their glow to the curator. Orders arrived days later, requests for journals, novels, poetry to preserve stories across the Northeast, proof that her craft could shine beyond the critic's words. Clara's chest swelled, her steadfastness a fire that burned through doubt, each book a testament to her resolve. Gideon visited one snowy night, his raincoat dripping in the binderies, glow, his amber eyes bright as he studied the Navy journal, its glow pulsing like a heart. "You've bound it, Clara," he said, his voice soft but sure, cutting through the snow's whisper. "The steadfastness?" Clara asked, smoothing the sage poetry book, its light glinting green. Gideon nodded, his smile gentle, his hand resting on the table. "It's in every stitch. Trust it always." He handed Clara a new spool of glowing thread, its fibers radiant, a twin to the first, and left, his figure fading into the snow, his presence a spark that warmed the bindery. Clara sat, the bindery quiet, but for the snow's murmur and the rustle of her needle, and meditated, the thread's glow warm in her hands. The visions were clearer than ever, the school thriving, kids binding, artisans teaching, her books preserving stories far beyond Page Haven. She bound a new burgundy novel, its glow a gift for Hannah, its spine tight as her resolve, her steadfastness a fire that had lit a path to timelessness. The school's walls were laid, their plaster gleaming under the winter sun, and Clara prepared for its opening, her hands careful but eager as she stitched a Navy journal, its glow radiant, its pages a promise for the kids who'd learn there. The snow had eased, leaving Page Haven Square sparkling, its maples bare but bright, the air crisp with spring's promise. Eli helped hang posters, his sketches now banners, his chatter bright. "You're gonna change the world, Ms. Reed," he said, his grin wide, and Clara laughed, her doubt quieter, her steadfastness a steady rhythm. The bindery was alive with light, its air thick with vellum and hope, and Clara felt her steadfastness burn brighter, each book a step toward a timeless legacy, a testament to the craft she loved, a stitch that could bind her dreams far beyond the hills. Spring's warmth bloomed in Page Haven, the rain a soft patter against the shingle roof of Reed's pages, the hills lush with new green, their wild flowers nodding in the breeze, their colors weaving through the mist like pages in a gentle wind. Clara Reed stood at her table, stitching the glowing thread into a sage poetry book, its faint light pulsing as the needle glided, the pages shimmering with each stitch, its glow vibrant despite the season's storms. The Burlington Press's orders had grown, her glowing books, Navy journals, burgundy novels, sage poetry, selling out with new requests from Montpelier and a library in Boston, each spine fueling her work. The bookbinding school's clapboard facade stood tall in the town square, its windows glowing with books crafted by kids, artisans, and Clara herself, a monument to her steadfastness and the community's belief. Her steadfastness burned bright, a fire fueled by Gideon's words. The greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground. Doubt flickered, faint as a breeze. Have I done enough? Will this last? But the thread's glow was a beacon, urging her to bind a timeless legacy, to let her books shine through adversity. The bindery was a radiant sanctuary, its tables humming with creation, the air thick with the scent of vellum and the damp breath of rain, its shelves lined with books that promised stories through Page Haven's fleeting springs. Townsfolk crowded in, their sandals muddy from hill trails, their voices a chorus of pride as they studied the burgundy novel, its glowing spine casting arcs across the oak walls, glinting off needles and glue pots stacked on the workbench. "These books are our legacy," said Mr. Pike, his farmer's hands cradling a Navy journal, its glow steady, its pages as warm as his fields. Clara smiled, her auburn hair now streaked with gray, her green eyes soft with a quiet joy, and showed him a new sage poetry book, its glow soft like twilight on meadows, its spine infused with the scent of oak from a glue she'd mixed herself. "You've changed Page Haven, Clara," Mr. Pike said, his voice warm as his cider, his eyes tracing the poetry book's light. Clara deflected, her voice low. "It's just pages." But Mr. Pike's belief settled deep in her chest, a reminder that her steadfastness had bound more than books. It had bound a town, a dream, a future. The bindery was alive with the rustle of pages, its air thick with oak and hope. And Clara felt not just a bookbinder, but a keeper of Page Haven's stories, her steadfastness a steady stitch, binding a legacy that would endure. She worked with a quiet resolve, the rain's murmur a gentle guide, her hands steady despite the stiffness that crept into her fingers, a faint echo of the arthritis that had slowed her mother years ago. She adapted, using lighter needles and teaching others to stitch. Her steadfastness, a fire that burned through discomfort. Her table's rhythm a song that drowned out the doubt that lingered. What if I can't keep binding? What if I'm not enough for them? Clara had become a mentor, her school bustling with kids like Eli Tate, now in college, but returning to teach. His hands deft at the table, his sketches of books bold with glowing spines. Artisans from Montpellier and Burlington taught alongside her, their books preserving stories across New England, New York, even California, their spines carrying the lessons Clara had shared. Meditations deepened each night, the rain's rhythm pulling her into a quiet trance, the thread's glow a star in her hands, its light warm against her skin. Visions were now reality. The bookbinding school thriving in the square, its tables alive with kids stitching pages, their laughter blending with the scent of vellum and oak. Families wandering through, their faces soft in the glow. A press in Boston, its shelves radiant with her creations, her books holding tales worldwide, their spines carrying Page Haven's heart to the world. The visions had come true, unfolding in the square, and Clara no longer sketched them. She lived them, her doubts silent, a mere shadow against her steadfastness's fire. The school's first spring session was underway, and Page Haven buzzed with life. The square alight with lanterns, their light dancing on the cobblestones, the air alive with the scent of pies, cider, and blooming wildflowers. Townsfolk celebrated with a spring festival, their hands busy with quilts, jams, and bound goods, their faces flushed with pride as they wandered the school's displays. Hannah Wells's fundraiser, showcasing Clara's books, had drawn artisans from across Vermont, their notebooks filled with sketches of her glowing spines, their voices soft with awe as they studied the intricate embossing. Eli, his sketches now bound into books, designed a school banner, its book logo glowing above the square, his grin infectious as he hung it with Clara's help. "You made this, Ms. Reed," he said, handing Clara a final sketch. A press in New York, its shelves radiant with books, spines glowing under a vaulted ceiling. Clara's throat tightened, the vision her own, now real, her hands trembling. As she took the paper, her steadfastness a fire that had lit Eli's dreams and those of countless others who bound at her tables. A final challenge emerged, sharp as the thunderstorms that swept the hills, its weight testing Clara's resolve one last time. A sudden leather shortage struck, a supplier's stock ruined by a tannery fire, halting Clara's work on a batch of novels for a California library, their deadline looming. Her heart sank, doubt flaring like a torn page. I can't fail the school now, not after all we've built. She inspected the empty leather crates, her hands trembling. The reins patter a taunt, but the thread's glow pulsed in its spool, and Gideon's words steadied her. The greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground. Clara rallied the community, her voice firm, and Ms. Laurel, her teacher's hands deft, connected her with a cooperative of tanners in northern Vermont, their leather untouched. Eli drove through the night to collect the hides, his chatter bright, while Hannah negotiated with the library for an extension, her scarf bright against the gloom. By dawn, sheets of leather arrived, soft and fragrant, and Clara hugged them, her gratitude warm as a stitch, her steadfastness, a needle that bound through adversity, ensuring the novels would glow in time. Gideon visited one rainy evening, his raincoat dripping in the bindery's glow, his amber eyes bright as he studied the burgundy novel, its glow pulsing like a heart. "You've bound it, Clara," he said, his voice soft but sure, cutting through the rain's murmur. "The legacy?" Clara asked, smoothing the navy journal, its light glinting blue. Gideon nodded, his smile gentle, his hand resting on the tool table. "It's in every page, every heart you've held. It's yours forever. He handed Clara a final spool of glowing thread, its fibers radiant, a twin to the others, and left, his figure fading into the rain, his presence a spark that warmed the bindery. Clara sat, the bindery quiet, but for the rain's patter and the rustle of her needle, and meditated, the thread's glow warm in her hands. The reality was brighter than her visions. The school packed with kids and artisans, their books glowing in libraries worldwide, their spines carrying Page Haven's heart, families learning, their faces soft in the glow. Her press in Boston thriving, her creations a testament to steadfastness. She bound a final sage poetry book, its glow a gift for the school, its spine tight as her resolve, her steadfastness a fire that had lit a path to a timeless legacy. The spring festival dawned under a clear sky, the rain pausing. Page Haven's square, alive with fiddles, laughter, and the scent of cider. The school's windows glowing with books crafted by kids, their spines dancing in the breeze. Townsfolk wandered through, their faces soft in the glow, their voices a chorus of pride as they marveled at the displays. Navy journals, burgundy novels, sage poetry, each a testament to Clara's steadfastness. Kids stitched pages at tables, their hands sticky with glue, their laughter blending with the scent of oak and vellum, while artisans from Burlington sold quilts and jams beside Clara's books, their stalls bright with stories. Clara stepped forward, her voice steady, her sweater soft against her skin, and spoke to the crowd, her words simple but heartfelt. You've made my dream real. These books are our strength, bound with steadfastness that holds us together. Her humility, it's just pages, was met with applause, hands clapping, voices calling her name, the square alive with the town's belief, the school a monument to their shared steadfastness. As the festival ended, Clara prepared for the school's next session, her hands careful but eager as she cut paper for a new novel, its glow radiant, its pages of promise for the kids who'd learn there. The rain returned, a gentle murmur, leaving Page Haven's square sparkling, its wildflowers bright. Under the sun, the air crisp with summer's promise. Hannah helped organize lesson plans, her scarf bright, her chatter warm, while Eli taught a class. His sketches now a reality, his hands deft at the table. You've held the world's stories, Ms. Reed, he said, his grin wide, and Clara laughed, her doubt a faint memory, her steadfastness a steady rhythm. The bindery was alive with light, its air thick with vellum and hope, and Clara felt her steadfastness burn brighter than ever, each book a step toward a timeless legacy. On quiet evenings, Clara walked the bindery's back porch, the hills rising vibrant against the sky, their wildflowers a story of their own. the air warm with spring's glow. She'd pause by her table, its surface still, and think of Miriam, her mother's hands binding through lean years, her voice steady. We'll hold the world's stories. Clara had been 16, her own hands learning the craft. And now, 26 years later, she had fulfilled that promise, her steadfastness a fire that had bound a school, a press, a legacy that stretched far beyond the hills. She'd mentor others, her hands slower but her heart full, teaching kids and artisans to bind with the glowing thread. Its light a reminder of the strength they all carry. The school thrived, its tables bustling, its books glowing in libraries worldwide. And Clara smiled, her green eyes bright, her legacy a page that would hold strong. Clara kept Gideon's words close, sharing them with her students, her voice soft but sure. The greatest oak was once a little nut who held its ground. She added her own, bind your steadfastness, and it will hold the world's stories. On rainy nights, she meditated, the threads glow warm in her hands, smiling at the legacy she'd bound, a page that endured in Page Haven's heart, a timeless strength crafted through a craft well loved, a light that would shine through every storm, every season, every tomorrow. The lesson of the bookbinder's thread is that steadfastness in adversity binds a timeless legacy. Challenges are pages to be stitched with resolve, creating a story that endures. Trust in your craft's rhythm. Let it guide your hands, and watch your dreams bind a tomorrow that holds strong.